Friends, welcome to Biology Made Easy. Today in this video we are going to discuss the speciation. So the ultimate aim of evolution is to produce a new species. And unless a new species is not produced, that means the process of evolution is not complete. It has not given rise to new species. But when this speciation will take place, it will take place only from the pre-existing ones when it has certain characters which are different from other individuals and there is no interbreeding between them. This is known as speciation. For speciation there are 5 different methods. 4 are natural and the 5th one is artificial. That means artificially also we can create a new species as scientists are doing that by hybridization. But 4 are the natural methods and let us discuss these 4 types. So the first one is allopatric speciation. Allopatric speciation, this is the first one. Now allo means different. That means a different area. That means when the isolation or speciation is taking place in a different geographical area, then we will call it as the allopatric speciation. Suppose there is a very big geographical area and in this area a particular type of species, maybe plant or animal, they are living. But due to certain mountains will be there in between them, or a river will flow. So in that case, when the geographical land is separated by certain mountains or rivers or even seas, then one individual cannot migrate to the other one for the purpose of reproduction. So when this process will take place in millions of years, those which are present in one geographical area, they become completely different from those that are present in a different geographical area. In this way, this speciation takes place. Now, what are the common examples? The common example in this case, we can take that of the first example we'll take. Example 1 is the Galapagos finches. So as you know that the Galapagos Islands, they are located in the Pacific Ocean and they are all separated by the sea. There are certain finches in these different Galapagos Islands. So when initially all the finches were similar, but when they are separated from each other, they in different islands they were there, and easily they could not move from one island to another island for millions of years. Their food habit also changed depending upon the availability. Now some of the finches, they became seed eating. That means they ate the seeds of the different fruits. Some were cactus eating. That means the cactus plant, they ate on the cactus plants. Some became insectivorous. That means the feeding habit of the different finches were different. Some ate the seeds, some the cactus plant, some were insectivorous. As a result, there is a lot of modification in their beaks. A lot of beaks were formed. Different types of beaks were formed in different finches. Some were quite a large beak. In some cases, there is very long beak. In some cases, short beak. In some cases, bent beak. In some cases, also medium-sized beaks were formed. That means due to their food habit, different types of beaks were formed, and ultimately it gave rise to different new species located in different Galapagos Islands. So this is known as allopatric speciation when there is some physical barrier. This physical barrier may be mountain, may be sea, may be river, or may be big lakes. So here the Galapagos Islands are separated by the seas. This is one example. Now let us take the second example. The second example is Grand Canyon squirrels. Example number 2 is Grand Canyon squirrels. Now the Grand Canyon, you must have heard the name. The Grand Canyon is in the Arizona state of North America, and 2 years back it was one of the 7 wonders of the world. So initially, when the Grand Canyon was not formed, the squirrels were there, all different types of the squirrels were present in one geographical area. But ultimately, millions of years back, in the Grand Canyon, different types of mountains full of rocks were formed and stretches of deserts were formed. There are even some areas where it's a volcanic eruption. That means the Grand Canyon is a place where there is no habitat, no animals, no plants, or no human beings. They live in that area because it's completely full of deserts and mountains, rocky mountains. So when the Grand Canyon was separated by these different mountains and deserts, the squirrels cannot move from one place to another place because of these geographical barriers. So a particular type of squirrel there remained in one particular area and could not interbreed with those which are present in a different geographical area. So ultimately, it gave rise to different types of squirrels, and they are known as Grand Canyon squirrels. So this is when they are separated by physical barrier. This is known as allopatric speciation. Then the second one we can call it is peripatric. The second one is peripatric speciation. So in peripatric speciation, what happens? Now you see the word peri. So here also there is a single geographical area. But in this single geographical area, peri means in the periphery. In the periphery, some of the population, they will behave differently from this original population. That means a small group. This is a very small group. A small group of individuals, they are separated from the mainstream of individuals. So when they are separated from the peripheral region, and naturally their behavior changes. After several generations, after several years, their behavior changes. So one such common example, we can take that of the figwort plant. So in this figwort plant, there is one species, Scrofularia loe, and this plant, it is separated from Scrofularia arguta. That means in the mainland there is a Scrofularia arguta. Now from this when a small population from this geographical area, they moved ahead as a small group, and when a small group is there, easily the genetic drift acts on them, genetic drift, because the genetic drift acts on only small populations. So when the genetic drift acted on this small group, after some years, a new species was developed and that became Scrofularia loei. So in this area, Scrofularia loei developed. So this is one case where from the periphery of the one geographical area, a small group is isolated, and that is known as peripatric speciation. From this word peri, you can easily remember that is from the periphery. Now then the third type. The third type is parapatric isolation or speciation. The third one is parapatric speciation. Now in this case, there is also no geographical separation. In a large geographical area, large number of species they inhabit in that area. But if suddenly, due to certain, there will be changes, and due to these changes, the pollution will take place, then all the species that are inhabiting in that area, that is not suitable for them, because all of them cannot tolerate that pollution. And one of the best example is that of the mining areas. Due to mining activities, usually lead and zinc, they are produced during the mining activities. And this lead, zinc, they are all deposited in the soil. That means soil is full of lead and zinc. That means all the organisms, they cannot tolerate this the pollution due to mining activities. So those which cannot tolerate, they have to leave that place. But those which can tolerate, they will leave this place. And if their character is heritable, after several years, that will give rise to a new type of species. Now let us give one example. Now one of the best example in this case is that of the buffalo grass. Buffalo grass. Now the buffalo grass, it can tolerate the mining activities. That means it can tolerate the lead, zinc, it can tolerate all these heavy metals. And the characters, the adaptations which take place in them, that is again inheritable. As a result, after several generations, the buffalo grass gives rise to a new species which is different from those areas which are not contaminated with mining activities. For example, another relative of this buffalo grass is vanilla grass. Vanilla grass. Now this vanilla grass is native to Europe, but now it is present in North and South America. And this cannot tolerate the mining activities, whereas this can tolerate. So, and this that means that now they have become two different species, but initially they are almost relatives. They are almost similar, but due to mining activities, the buffalo grass has completely become different from that of the vanilla grass. This is one example. Then the one second example also we can give which can tolerate the mining activities. That is Agrostis tenuis. The second example which can tolerate the mining activities is Agrostis tenuis. Agrostis tenuis, this also can tolerate all the mining activities, and the characters which are developed in it, they are also inheritable. So because of this behavior, this agrostis tenuis, it become different, that means a new species is created, which become different from others. So this is known as parapatric speciation, that means when due to pollution, due to the mining activities, all the species that were initially inhabiting that area will not tolerate it, so they will move to the non-contaminated area, while those which can tolerate, and they can remain in that polluted area. Now come to the fourth type of speciation. The fourth type is sympatric. Sympatric speciation, and sympatric speciation is the same. So that means it is in the same geographical area, but whether actually the sympatric is taking place or not, it is actually a controversial. And according to some scientists, actually it doesn't exist. According to some scientists, it doesn't exist. Because in case of sympatric speciation, there is no physical barrier. There is no physical barrier. So when there is no physical barrier, how the different how the speciation takes place? Then some scientists suggested, though there is no physical barrier, even the species from one place can move to another for the purpose of breeding, but sometimes there is some changes in their behavior, and particularly in case of food and shelter. With respect to food and shelter, some species, they change their behavior, which is different from the remaining part. Let us take an example. And one of the best example for this is the apple maggot insect. Apple maggot. So the insect example, insect apple maggot. Now usually the insect apple maggot, it grows in a particular plant that is known as hawthorn. So usually this apple maggot, it grows on the fruits of this hawthorn, which is a related plant to that of the apple. It grows here. But in the 19th century, or you can tell 200 years back, when the apple was introduced to America, the apple plant also grew side by side because both are similar plants, and there are the apple fruits were also formed. Now some of these apple maggot insects which were laying their eggs in this hawthorn plant, some of them just moved to this apple plant and they laid their eggs inside the apple, causing them to rot. That means initially they were laying their eggs in the hawthorn plant, but some of them moved to this apple plant, and inside the apple they laid their eggs, causing the apple to rot. And when it completely rot, the eggs will be hatched and then new insects will come out. So you see, initially they were present in one plant, that is hawthorn, and they are laying their eggs in the fruits of hawthorn. But when the apple plant was introduced in North America, some of the insects moved to apple and they stayed there. They liked that particular fruit, so they didn't return back. So after several generations, what will happen? Naturally, the insect, the apple maggot, which will be present in this or lay eggs in this apple plant, that will be completely different from this one. But remember, till now, two different species have not been formed. It is still under this speciation process. So this is one of the, apple maggot is one of the best examples of this sympatric speciation, where there is no geographical barrier, but there is a certain barrier in their behavior and due to their change in habit of food and shelter. Now, if we will come to the last point. So these are the fourth. The fifth one is artificial one. That means by hybridization we can do it. Now, if there is suppose geographical isolation, and here I am writing genetic isolation. Genetic isolation. Now, the geographical isolation may change to genetic, and the genetic isolation may change into the geographical. So, usually the allopatric and peripatric, that means the allopatric, the first and second one, the allopatric and peripatric speciation, that means they are geographical separated. These two are geographical separated, and ultimately genetical they becomes different. But if we consider the other two, the sympatric and parapatric, these are present in these are genetical they become different, so ultimately the geographical they become different, and this is usually due to ecological isolation, due to change in their behavior, So genetically they become different, and ecological they are isolated. So this is the difference. Now if we will summarize the entire thing, then you come to this one. Now you see, here previously I have drawn the diagram so that there will be no wastage of time. This line is coming under allopatric speciation, the second line peripatric, the third one parapatric, and the fourth one is sympatric. So in each case, this is the original population. Now in the second step, how the initial step is taking place. In the initial step, in case of allopatric, there is due to certain physical barriers like mountains, rivers, seas. Now it speaks, that means barrier formation is taking place. While in case of peripatric, that is from a large geographical area, from the peripheral part, one is separating. That means a new niche entered. That means some of the species from the periphery, the new niche is formed in them. And in this case, in case of parapatric, which is also very rare type, here usually, though geographically they are not completely separated, but they are separated spatially. That word is spatial, S-P-A-T-I-L. That means spatially they are separated, and now they entered into a new niche. While in case of the sympatric, there is no geographical difference, there is no geographical barrier, they can move. But within that geography, a genetic polymorph is formed, as we have given the example of the insect apple maggot. Now we come to the third step. In the third step, there is the initiation of reproductive isolation. Now you see the color has been changed. Now the green and the red, they have become different because this is reproductive isolation. And here also it is completely separated. This is in isolation niche. And this is in adjacent niche. It is in the same geographical area, but adjacent to it. While here it is within the geographical area, but that means it is within the population. But some genetic variation take place. And the fourth step, this is a new distinct species. That is now, in each case, new distinct species are formed, though they may overlap each other, but now they are completely different species are formed. So this is the summary for the entire 4 types. If you can remember this, then you can remember the whole thing of speciation. Then after this, let us discuss questions. So, one question is speciation of sympatric species is due to first choice geographical isolation, second choice reproductive isolation, third choice isolation or separation, and fourth choice migration. So this question was asked in AIMS 2013. Now come to the second question. Reproductive isolation between segments of a single population is termed first choice sympatric, second choice allopatric, third choice population divergence, and fourth choice disruptive divergence. And this question was asked in Delhi PMT 2009. So after going through it very easily, you can answer. These are the type of questions which are asked. So thank you very much for watching the video on speciation. Wish you a very bright career. God bless you.